Welcome to Talk Treatises. Today, we are scaring directly into the sun of 17th century philosophy. We're taking on a book that was so controversial, so radical.
Well, I mean, the author was basically excommunicated from his community.
Exactly. His work was banned for decades. People whispered his name like he was a demon. We are talking about Benedictus de Spinoza's Ethics.
Or to give it its full kind of intimidating title, Ethica Ordini Geometrico Demonstrata.
Ethics, demonstrated in geometrical order.
And, you know, that title isn't just for show.
It certainly isn't. I have to admit, when I first opened the file for this week's deep dive, I thought I downloaded the wrong thing.
A math textbook.
A high school math textbook, yeah. It's not written in chapters or paragraphs. It's all axioms, definitions, postulates, and propositions.
It is a unique reading experience, to say the least. You get a definition, then a proof, and then QED at the end of every single point.
Which really begs the question, why?
Yeah.
Why on earth would someone write about God and human emotions and the path to happiness using, of all things, the format of Euclid's geometry?
It feels incredibly cold, doesn't it, for a book about ethics?
Very.
But you have to put yourself in Spinoza's shoes. We're in the post-Cartesian world here. René Descartes had just, revolutionized philosophy by trying to ground everything in absolute certainty.
The whole I think, therefore I am.
Right. So Spinoza is looking at all the messiness of the world, religion, psychology, morality, the chaos of human passion. And he thinks, if this is real, it must follow rational laws.
So he wants to clean up philosophy.
He wants to prove it. Just like a triangle has necessary properties that, cannot be otherwise, the angles must add up to 180 degrees. He believes reality itself, even our messy emotions, follow a necessary logical structure.
So he's not trying to persuade you with pretty words.
No, not at all. He wants to demonstrate the truth with mathematical certainty.
And he's definitely trying to solve a specific intellectual problem that Descartes left behind, right?
Yeah.
Something about the mind and body.
Exactly. Descartes left everyone with this huge headache called dualism. The idea that the mind is this ghostly soul stuff, and the body is a machine.
And somehow they interact.
But he could never explain how. How does a ghost pull the levers of a machine? Spinoza looks at that and just says no. In the preface to part 3, he explicitly calls out Descartes for it.
Right. He says Descartes thought the mind had absolute power, but failed to actually define the nature of emotions.
And Spinoza's goal is to unify everything, to bring it all into one system.
Okay, so if we had to boil this massive, dense geometric proof down to a single thesis statement, what are we looking at?
The thesis is this. The universe is a single deterministic substance, which he calls God or nature. And human happiness and freedom come not from having free will, but from purely understanding the necessity of all things.
Okay, let's unpack that, because that sentence has about 5 different explosions in it. You're happy when you realize you have no choice.
It's a paradox for sure.
So let's start where he starts. Part 1, concerning God.
Right. And Spinoza's definition of God is the foundation of the whole house of cards. He starts with the definition of substance.
Which he says is that which is in itself and conceived through itself.
Yeah, and what does that mean?
Translated for the rest of us.
It's basically the bedrock of reality. It's the thing that needs nothing else to exist. You and I, we need parents, food, oxygen to exist. A table needs wood. But substance.
It just is.
It just is. And then he defines God as being absolutely infinite, consisting of infinite attributes.
Okay.
And here's the core argument. This is what got him labeled an atheist by his critics, even though he talks about God constantly.
Right.
He argues that there cannot be two substances of the same nature. So if God is infinite and contains all reality, there's nothing left over for a second substance to be made of.
Which means
there is only one substance in the universe.
Wait, let me stop you there, because the implication of that is massive. If there is only one substance, and that substance is God, what is this microphone?
Are you saying we aren't things? Not in the deep metaphysical sense, no. Spinoza says we are modes. We are just modifications of that one substance.
That sounds a little diminishing. I'm just a mode.
Well, think of it this way. The classic analogy is the ocean. Imagine you're looking at the sea. You see a wave rising up. It has a shape, a height, a location.
You can point to it.
You can point to it and name it, but is the wave a separate object from the ocean?
No.
Can you take the wave home in a bucket?
No. If you scoop it up, you just have water. The wave is just an action. It's what the ocean is doing right then.
Exactly. You, me, that tree outside, we are the waves. We are just the temporary shapes that the one infinite substance is taking. We are God moding if you will.
And this leads to that famous Latin phrase, Deus sive natura.
God or nature. He uses them interchangeably, and this is crucial. Spinoza is saying God isn't some grandfather figure standing outside the world painting it on a canvas.
God is the canvas.
And the paint, God is the immanent cause. The universe is just God expressing his own nature.
Which brings us to the appendix of part 1. I have to say, for a guy writing like a geometry teacher, he gets pretty spicy here.
Oh, he absolutely shreds it.
This is a savage takedown of final causes.
He destroys the idea of teleology. Teleology is the idea that things have a purpose or a goal.
But we build a house to live in it.
Right. And because we act with a goal in mind, we project that psychology onto God. We think the sun exists to give us light. We think the sea exists to feed us fish.
It's extreme arrogance, basically.
It is. And he says, when something happens that we don't understand, like a hurricane destroying a village, people throw up their hands and say, it's God's will.
He calls that the asylum of ignorance.
Asylum of Ignorance, which is a great band name, by the way.
It really is.
But his point is that appealing to God's will is just a fancy way of saying, I stopped thinking. He says nature has no goal. It just is.
And that's where mathematics comes in.
Exactly. Math is the hero here because math doesn't care about good or bad or purpose. A triangle doesn't exist to be pointy. It just follows its own nature. And Spinoza wants us to look at reality and our own lives with that same cold, clear objectivity.
Okay, so we have this deterministic mechanical universe, which is God. Now let's get to the messy part, part 2, the mind and body. You mentioned he was trying to fix Descartes' problem. How does he do it?
He solves it with a concept called parallelism. He has this famous proposition. The order and connection of ideas is the same in the order and connection of things.
Break that down for me.
He's saying the mind and the body are not two different things interacting. They're the same thing viewed from two different angles.
Or, to use his terminology, two different attributes.
Right. We should probably define attribute and extension. When he says extension, he just means physical matter, stuff that takes up space.
The physical world.
Precisely. And thought is the mental aspect. Spinoza says these are just two ways of perceiving the same underlying substance. So your mind is simply the idea of your body.
So when I stub my toe.
That physical event in the attribute of extension has a parallel event in the attribute of thought, which is the feeling of pain.
So the mind doesn't tell the body to move.
No. And the body doesn't cause the mind to think. They move in perfect unison because they are the same reality. It's like a coin. One side is tails, one side is heads. If I flip the coin, both sides move.
Tails didn't tell heads to move.
No, they're one entity.
That actually makes so much more sense than a ghost pulling levers.
Yeah.
He also talks about knowledge here, right? Inadequate and adequate ideas. This feels like it's setting up the happiness argument later.
It's vital. Most of us live our whole lives in the realm of inadequate ideas or imagination. This is fragmented knowledge based on random experiences.
Like his example of the sun.
Yes.
When I look at the sun, my eyes tell me it's this small, bright disk, maybe 200 feet away in the sky.
Exactly. That is an inadequate idea. It's not false in the sense that you aren't seeing it, but it's incomplete. It's just how your body is reacting to the light.
And an adequate idea.
That's reason. That's when you understand the true cause. You know the sun is actually a massive ball of gas millions of miles away.
But here's the kicker. Even when I know the astronomy, the sun still looks 200 feet away.
Precisely.
Oh.
And Spinoza loves that. He says falsity is just a lack of knowledge. You aren't wrong to see the disk, you just lack the full context. The error comes when you believe the sun is actually small.
So wisdom isn't about changing your senses, it's about changing your understanding of them.
That's it.
Okay, part 3. The geometry of emotions. This is where the rubber meets the road. He promises to treat human actions and appetites as though I were concerned with lines, planes, and solids.
This is one of the most modern parts of the book. He refuses to treat humans as a kingdom within a kingdom. We aren't special moral agents floating above nature. We are biological machines.
And the engine driving us is,
Yeah.
What did he call it, conatus?
Conatus. The striving. Every single being fundamentally strives to persist in its own existence. That is our essence.
A rock resists being crushed.
Yeah.
A human resists dying.
Yes. And from this simple drive, he derives 3 primary emotions. First is desire, which is just that appetite to exist, but with consciousness of it.
And the other 2.
Pleasure or joy and pain or sorrow. But again, he defines them geometrically. Pleasure is the transition to a greater perfection. an increase in your power to act.
And pain is the opposite, a decrease in power.
A transition to a lesser perfection.
So it's about energy levels almost.
Right.
And he builds the whole complex web of human feelings just from those three.
Every single one. It's like emotional chemistry. Take love. Spinoza defines love as simply pleasure accompanied by the idea of an external cause.
So I feel an increase in power and I think you caused it, therefore I love you. It's so clinical.
It really is. And hate is the opposite. Pain accompanied by the idea of an external cause. You make me feel weaker, so I hate you.
What about something like envy?
Envy is pain at another's success or pleasure at another's failure. And he explains it through imitation of effect. We naturally emulate the emotions of those we see as like us.
So that's empathy.
It's the basis of empathy, yes. But if they possess something we want, that imitation mechanism glitches. We feel our own power decrease because theirs increase.
It really is a geometry of psychology. Which leads us to part 4, human bondage. Dramatic title.
It is.
Why are we bondage?
We're slaves because we are finite parts of an infinite universe. The power of external causes is infinitely stronger than our own power. We are, as he says, tossed about like waves by contrary winds.
We think we're steering the ship.
But we're mostly just reacting to things hitting us.
And this is where I have to push back a little because this is where a lot of people might recoil. Spinoza seems to be saying we have zero free will. I chose to drink my coffee this morning. I'm choosing to ask you this. Is he saying that's a delusion?
Spinoza would look you in the eye and say, yes, it is a delusion, a very specific kind of delusion caused by ignorance.
That feels incredibly insulting. I'm not a robot.
Well, he addresses that feeling directly. He uses the famous drunkard paradox. He says the drunkard believes he speaks freely when he starts rambling. The baby believes it, freely wants milk.
So we are just biological puppets.
We are conscious of our actions, but ignorant of the causes. Because you can't feel your neurons firing or see your genetic history.
Or track the caffeine molecule.
Right. You invent a story called, I chose this. Spinoza says, no, you didn't. You were determined by a chain of causes stretching back to the Big Bang.
If that's true, what happens to morality? If I can't choose, I can't be good or evil.
Bingo, he completely reconstructs those terms. Good and bad are not cosmic truths. There is no evil in the universe, just necessary events.
So good is what?
Good is simply what we know is useful to us. Bad is what hinders our power.
So murder isn't cosmically evil?
In the cosmic sense, no. It's just matter moving. But for us, for human society, it is very bad because it hinders our safety and destroys rational life.
He uses the example of music, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Is music good? Well, it's good for the melancholy person. It raises their power. It's bad for the mourner. And to the deaf person, it's indifferent. Good and bad are relative.
This sounds like a recipe for chaos. If we are just machines reacting to stimuli, is there any hope? Or are we just doomed?
And that brings us to part V, human freedom. This is the payoff. This is why he wrote the whole book.
But how can we be free if everything is determined?
We get free by understanding the determination.
That's the paradox again.
It's the hardest part to grasp. We cannot stop the emotions completely, but we can separate them from the idea of the external cause. This is the concept of subspecie eternitatis.
Viewing things under the form of eternity.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a real world example. How does this help me when I'm angry?
Okay, imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction is bondage. You feel your power decrease, you feel pain, you attach it to the other driver, and you feel hate. You want to scream.
Right, standard Tuesday.
But if you apply reason, if you view this subspecie eternitatis, you look at the causes. You understand that this driver is a product of their biology, their stress levels, the physics of the car.
The chain of events leading to this moment.
They had to cut you off just like a stone has to fall if you drop it.
So I tune them from a villain into a natural phenomenon.
Exactly. You don't hate a tornado for wrecking your house. You don't hate a baby for crying. You understand it as necessary. And when you understand why people do what they do, the hatred just evaporates. You cannot hate what you truly understand.
And that understanding brings peace.
It brings the highest possible peace. Spinoza calls it the intellectual love of God. It's an intuitive grasp of the whole web of reality.
You realize you aren't fighting the universe. You are the universe.
You stop struggling against the waves and realize you are the water.
And he ends with that beautiful thought on blessedness.
Blessedness is not the reward of virtue, but virtue itself.
Which reverses traditional religion.
Completely. You don't control your lusts so that God will give you a cookie later. The peace, the blessedness comes from the understanding itself. Being rational is the reward.
It's a stunningly self-contained system. Rigorous, cold, but strangely comforting. Now, Spinoza's universe is strict, but let's stretch it a bit. It's time for our thought experiment.
And our disclaimer. These are hypothetical scenarios for entertainment and educational purposes, just pitching Spinoza's ideas into the modern or sci-fi realm.
Okay, experiment number 1. Let's call it, the algorithm of necessity courtroom.
Ooh, I like that. So, okay, imagine a whole legal system, right? But it's built completely on Spinoza's ideas from part 3 and 4.
Meaning no more free will at all.
None. The concept of moral blame is just gone.
So a murderer stands before the judge. He says, Your Honor, I didn't choose this. My genes, my upbringing, the Big Bang made me do it.
And in this court, the judge nods and says, I agree completely. You are 100% determined.
So he walks free.
Absolutely not. Spinoza says we cage a rabid dog not because it is sinful or evil, but because it is dangerous.
It lowers our power.
Right. So the verdict is something like geometrically incompatible with social safety.
That sounds efficient.
It changes the whole nature of punishment. We aren't hurting the criminal to pay them back for a sin. We are simply removing a harmful cause from the equation purely for utility. It's not justice. It's social engineering.
It strips all the vengeance out of the law. Wow. Okay, experiment number 2, the subspecies Eternitatis VR visor.
All right. You put on this headset. It's connected to a supercomputer that tracks every atom in the universe. You're walking down the street. Someone insults you.
Usually I'd get defensive.
Right. But with the visor, you instantly see an overlay of the causes behind that insult. You see the fight they had with their spouse, the drop in their blood sugar,
The childhood trauma that makes them lash out.
the physics of the sound waves. You see the absolute necessity of that insult occurring.
I suppose I'd stop being angry instantly. It would be like getting mad at a pre-recorded video.
You would reach that intellectual love of God. But here's the catch. Would you ever act again? If you see everything as inevitable, would you bother defending yourself? Would you bother trying to change the world?
That is the danger of the view from eternity. You might become so zen that you forget to live.
Spinoza would argue that the free man thinks of death least of all things, and his wisdom is a meditation not of death, but of life. He'd want you to use that visor to navigate the world better, not to check out of it.
So what does this all mean for us? Why should we care about a geometry book from the 1600s?
Because we live in a world where we are constantly manipulated by algorithms, by advertising, by political outrage, by our own brain chemistry. We are pulled by strings we don't see.
And Spinoza offers a way to cut the strings.
He says, don't pretend you have magic free will. Admit you are a part of nature. Understand how the machine works, and that is how you become free.
We'll leave you with the very last sentence of the book, which I think is one of the best closing lines in the history of literature. All things excellent are as difficult as they are rare.
Thanks for listening to Talk Treatises.